to give me your name, title, obviously where you work, and just tell me how long you've been working in the agency world. We can start with you.
Hi, I'm Christi Rohrkemper. I am a strategist at Organic in Detroit, and I have been working for 5.5 years.
Okay.
I'm Shannon Holstein. I'm a senior writer at GSD&M in Austin, and I have been in the agency for 4 years.
Okay.
I'm Amit Gurnani. I'm a creative at Publicis Seattle. I've been in the industry for about 5 years.
Cool. Awesome. So we're about in the same age. So one of the things that really got the town hall going, and I know you guys were in there before, but this was really like people started almost yelling at each other, was about job hopping. Because I know that you had some strong feelings about whether you were a job hopper or not, and so did you. And I think the issue was, okay, great, if you want to move jobs every couple years, be my guest. But as a management person, as somebody as an executive, that makes my scope difficult, and that's all we're talking about, talent retention. How do I keep the millennials around if they don't want to stay around? I'm curious to know, we can start with you, Christi, about what sort of, is job hopping a real crisis in the industry, what you're seeing in your peers and yourself?
I think yes and no. I think when you start out at an entry level, especially for us, there was a huge pool of people to choose from when we all started. So we knew that even though there was a demand on the agency side for young talent to come in, there was also a huge supply. Mm-hmm. So I think in that aspect, if someone leaves a position, it's kind of a well-known fact that there's a pool, especially it's such a small industry, that you probably know someone that would be a good fit right away. But it's also hard to grow when you're consistently having to learn a new industry or learn a new client or a new skill set every few years. So I think both.
Yeah, absolutely. Amit, you said you had sort of moved up.
Yes.
You didn't say you moved around, you moved
and,
up.
I've been guilty of job hopping. I'm sorry, I apologize, everybody. But I did it for the reasons that I wasn't running away from anything. I was running towards something better, and it was have an opportunity where I'm working on XYZ. I want to work on XYZ instead, so I jumped, and I kept moving until I found a place that I was happy, and I don't blame people for doing that. I think you can think of job hopping as a crisis for the industry if you treat it as a crisis. Instead, if you're a hiring manager and you know that people are doing this and this is kind of the trend, hire people who are going to start off the job running, who are going to hit the ground running right when they start. That's kind of what the strategy I've had whenever I've started a new job. Just make sure I'm contributing as much as I can immediately. Then it's almost like it's an unspoken agreement, right? Even if you don't stay for longer than a year or two, you've done the best you can do during this time. You've brought us something valuable. We've given you something valuable, and it works out for everybody.
Absolutely. I want to ask you a different question.
Oh, okay, great.
What is the one thing that sort of drew you to working in the agency business, and sort of what is it that's actually keeping you in there?
Well, I'm a writer, so like for me, it's about like the creative and the ability to be creative every single day. And I think it's just really cool to get to be able to work at a job. I know people who aren't in the industry kind of always are like, oh, it's like Mad Men, and I'm like, yeah, no, but yeah, it's like yes and no at the same time. But it's like you're always getting to create something from scratch, which is really special rather than doing something that's just kind of like on a checklist of things that have to be done, like dealing with data or doing something like that. So I think it's on a more creative standpoint. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to just jump on the question that you just previously asked. I don't think it's a crisis to millennials that they're job hopping. I think it's a crisis to the agencies. But I think, speaking as someone, and I've stayed at my agency for a while, so, but I think people are looking for better pay, better opportunities as far as like working on brands that they can create the cool stuff. And so I think it's, I read an article talking about millennials being the want generation, and I think we always are wanting more for ourselves and our careers, and unless we are incentivized to stay with an agency because our wants and needs are being met that way, then I don't see our generation stopping the job hopping or going into freelancing or doing things on a short-term basis until they can find where they want to land.
So then in that case, what can agencies in general do to make millennials happier and make sure that they, or you, stick around?
I think in general, and I can only speak from my own experiences, but I can guess what everyone else is feeling as well. I think giving younger people more opportunities to shine. So I think a lot of people mistakenly believe millennial ambition looks like playing the lottery. That millennials want to play a bunch of scratchers or pick the right numbers and just get successful out of nowhere, right? I think, and I don't know anything about sports, so I apologize. I'm going to make up a sports analogy.
Oh, great.
I think it's more akin to playing basketball. Millennials want more passes. They want more chances to make a slam dunk.
There you go.
I think you got it.
I know what a slam dunk is.
That makes sense. What about you? What do you think? One thing that you feel like
I
you can
totally
do?
agree, and not only opportunities to shine, but just opportunities in general. I feel like entering, you know that you're kind of the low man on the totem pole, and it is so shocking and surprising when a manager or director or someone that's a high level will even just invite you to a meeting so that you can learn something new and see what's going on and see a new side of the business. I think those just, it makes you feel valued as an employee.
Moving on from that, because that's related to feedback. We were just talking about feedback with Dave and how sort of what they've done with feedback, which is almost a near constant level of feedback, what it sounds like at iSpa, right? People can tell you at any time how you're doing. I know that the one charge often leveled against millennials is that you need a lot of feedback. Yes, true, why do you need it so much?
I think it goes with like wanting to like better ourselves and like have the more opportunities. And I think also the feedback is, I think we like being validated for the things that we do. And so the feedback, whether it's positive or negative, I think people like hearing that they're doing their job well, because a lot of times we're doing jobs for like double-digit days and working weekends and working late and doing the things that we need to do to like do our job the best that we think we need to do. So I think it's just a way to validate the things that we're putting into the job.
I think that constructive criticism, feedback is the most important for me. I have very high expectations for myself, and I know that my agency does as well. So if there's something that I'm not doing to excel above and beyond their expectations, I absolutely want to know so that I can better myself for me and for the company.
Have you ever been told that you ask for feedback? Like, you don't need a gold star every time you do something.
No, the constructive criticism part is more important to me than a pat on the back.
To that gold star point, though,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that's like every article you read about the M word, which is us millennials. Every article you read is going to talk about the trophy generation, that sort of thing. I think it's really hard to make generalizations about this generation because it's more diverse than any previous generation in the industry. And of course, we are facing issues with diversity and hiring and talent, but in terms of comparing generations, this is the most diverse. So it's hard to say that we've all had the same background. We haven't. It's just not the truth. But back to your question about affirmation or validation or about getting constant feedback, I think, yes, it makes us feel good. It makes people feel good when they get feedback. That's a people thing, not a millennial thing. Yeah. But at the same time, you should know what your feedback is before you get it. Like, you should know what's going on. You should know what your issues are. So I think maybe with millennials, one of the issues is at the very beginning, and you probably can attest to this as well, you're trying so hard. You want to do everything, get into every meeting, do every possible project possible, and you're not you're not self-aware.
Right.
And so if you're not self-aware, someone has to step in to tell you what's going on until you get that level of maturity and you're like, oh, this is crazy. This is weird. I'm acting weird. I'm acting strange. Until you get that self-awareness.
Yeah. Is that where a mentor comes in?
I think so.
Yeah. Tell me about sort of mentorship and what the role that's played in your career so far.
Okay, so mentorship. I pick my people from, so one of my mentors is a business development leader at MDC Partners. One is a CCO at Pitch. Her name is Xanthi. She's one of my favorite people. I pick my mentors from places that I don't necessarily work, and I just gut check with them when I'm accepting a new offer or when I'm pursuing something different, and they tell me the truth because we don't work together. And so that's helped me. The distance has helped me and helped them give me the right advice.
Yeah. What about you guys? Mentors play a big part in your career?
I think for me, I reach out to them more, and I find people who think the way that I do personally. I know I can't speak for I don't want to speak for every millennial on this because I know everyone reaches out differently, but the people who think and respond the way you do, and what you were saying about feedback, like critical feedback about the way you're doing things, like that's super helpful. And I try to find people who give me the most honest answer, and then just trust them, but as well as trust my gut with what's going on.
Does your agency have a formal mentorship structure, especially for new hires?
My agency doesn't, but my agency has a really great culture where I think that there's like a natural fit with where people fit into mentorship as far as the hierarchy that goes.
Okay. What about you guys? Formal structure or sort of a little bit more loose, go
We're
meet the people you
assigned
meet?
a buddy who's on a similar level, but in a different discipline of the agency that will take us around, introduce us to everyone, like kind of be our, like, that person in your ear in meetings when you're like, what does that mean? What is that acronym for? That really like helps you go along the way. But ours is a lot more of a community. We've basically restructured the way that we do social events or any type of interaction. All of the areas in the center of the agency are just a huge common space. You can go and have lunch with anyone that's sitting there. We have beer bash once a month, just the agency stops for an hour so that everyone can meet and come together. So you get a lot of different perspectives that isn't necessarily what you would get from just one mentor who's in your same role.
I want to talk about career paths because that was another big thing at the town hall, that often what people want from agency life isn't necessarily a huge salary. What they want is a clear understanding of where their path is going to go, and that's probably more true for people just starting out. What is the importance of knowing where you're going to go? Or do you kind of map it out yourself and you're okay with that?
For me, I map it out myself. I have like this 12-step plan, and it's not about alcohol, it's about career success, so it's a different one. But I think it's really unclear. No matter where you work, no matter how great the culture is, I would say, and I've worked at too many agencies to list and not be embarrassed, but I think there's no clear plan for
you're on
people.
LinkedIn, right?
Yes, go look me up. I think it's not a clear path for anyone who's junior, mid-level, or even lower senior level.
Okay.
People don't make it clear, and you see that around you, right? What's the first instinct you have when you're like, am I doing well? Am I on the right path? You look around and you see your fellow people in your same age group, people you went to school with, and people who are in the industry. It varies so wildly. You'll see people who are in the same role at the same level for years, and then you'll see people who are directors of departments and they still have roommates. No offense to anyone who has roommates, but that's like a little too soon, right? So it's just hard. If you can't buy your own toilet paper and clean your dishes, should you be directing department? I don't know. I'm not sure. It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell where you should be and where you should be going next.
That's true.
So that is a thing that would be helpful to know from your supervisor. Where do you see me in this whole thing? Do you see me here? Can I stay here? Is this good?
Think about moving. What about you guys? Clear career paths, Shannon?
I think it seems clear when you start in the industry. I feel like advertising isn't an industry and I feel like the accountants out there are going to be mad, but it's not like accounting where you go in and what your job is going to be. But advertising is different based on the agency that you go in and the culture and the size of the agency and whether it's a digital or traditional shop and all these things. And I think anything that you go in with a preconceived notion, it changes and evolves as you work in an agency. Right. So I know people that I've started in the industry at the same time with. Some people are like, yes, I still want to go and be a creative director, and some people are like, I'm super happy being a senior writer. So I think it just evolves depending on how they see themselves in the industry as they go. It's sort of a self-evolving.
Going in, your idea of a career path is like the hierarchical structure that people tell you, like I started on the account side, so you're going to be an account coordinator, and then you're going to be this, and then there are 85 levels before you can be a manager. And I made a lateral move to another agency, and it wasn't like, I'm not progressing because I didn't move up that level. So I think my idea of what a career path is has definitely changed, and it's more about how I can grow and how I can help my company than where my next title is going to be.
Okay. We only have 3 minutes left, and it is called Ask a Millennial. So anybody else want to ask a millennial or all millennials? One over here. Jack's up here.
Thank you. Jack Skeels with Agency Agile. There's some really interesting stuff. Pew Research does stuff on millennials all the time. I don't know if you've seen it. One of the things they talk about is millennials' attitudes towards authority, questioning authority versus respecting it, or that has to be earned, versus other generations. I'm wondering about your thoughts on that.
Well, what do the Pew people say?
It said generally distrustful of unearned authority.
Oh, I can see that making sense. Personally, I feel like, and from judging from the many people I know in the industry who are our age group, I think it is partially earned, but I think at the same time, people who are, again, self-aware enough can look at their creative leaders, or whoever, whatever their manager or supervisor, having just gone to a new job, and say they are in charge for a reason, agencies are the way they are for a reason, and trust that they can learn something from that person. But that's not an authority thing, that's just a people thing. Generally, we should all, anyone in this room, regardless of what title you are, you can learn something from somebody else. So if that's the case, we can certainly learn something from our supervisors.
And I think also it has a lot to do with your culture in your own job, because I think at least the people where I work, they discuss things amongst each other. So I think we know more as a group from collecting our information together. So if an authority figure is super respected within the agency, then I think people have like a more likelihood to trust them just coming in because their peers think so as well. And I wouldn't say it's like a sheep mentality, but I would say it's just like we gather all our data together and just respect each other's opinions.
Yeah. I do want to try and get one more question in before we run out of time. Anybody else? Nobody? Nobody else to ask Millennial? Okay, I have a question for all three of you, but I need the answer in like 5 words or less. What is the one thing your agency should provide for you that they don't? You can go first, Amit. No, you can go first. No time to think.
Transparent opportunities for success.
Okay.
Opportunities to pursue our creative passions outside of our clients.
Yeah, sorry. It's okay. It's so good. I don't like math. Go ahead.
The opportunity to have better insight into where the agency is going and how I might be able to help with it.
It's awesome. I'm really glad none of you said free beer. See, we're not a stereotype.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And you guys are here all 2 days.
Yes, we are.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.